Hi, I'm Cody Rue. This is the Church of Logic. We're here with part 2 of Linear Logic with Rob Simmons and Chris Martins.
You have a reusable machine from dollars to Diet Cokes.
Yeah.
If you can get Bang Dollar, then you're
golden.
Then
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
come
yeah.
up with an infinite money glitch.
Yeah.
But having having Bang flour, having infinite flour is different than saying that you have Bang flour lolly cake, right? Like
Yeah.
if I that it's yeah.
Okay. Yes. That would be nice as well.
An infinite machine from flour. An infinite.
Oh,
baking.
you meant flour. Like food flour. I thought you were talking about flowers. Sorry.
Oh no.
Like
This is
what?
I was
Like lavender, maybe? I don't know.
and I think that
Okay.
this maybe gets to the next connective because you don't just need a flour to make cake.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You need a couple of things, and you need them all at once.
Right. So we've talked about the linear version of implication,
Mm-hmm.
but like in persistent logic, we also have conjunction. So we also want to talk about having more than one thing. So to make a cake, maybe you need some flour, butter, and eggs, and to turn that into a cake. Or in the vending machine metaphor, right? Another thing you might want to say is the concept of getting change back. So put in $1, and if we're in 1993 or whatever, right? You put in $1 and you get a Diet Coke, and then you get 50 cents back. So to do that, to express this, we need connective tensor, which is one of spoilers, linear logic's conjunction connectives.
Yes. Okay, great.
And you're
So-
imagining a circle with a big X inside of it, which is used as tensor in other settings. But if you know the word tensor from any other mathematical settings, forget that briefly. This just means I've got both of these things.
Yes, this is where the podcast format really shines, is when you have to describe
Symbols.
the shape of the thing you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
But, okay, I've made my bed. Okay, so tensor is if I need several things, if I need flour and water to get a cake, then it's flour, tensor, water.
Yeah, lolly cake.
A lolly cake. And if I get something back out, if I get several things back out, then that would also be a tensor.
Yep.
On the right hand side, say my change.
Yeah.
Great.
Dollar, lolly, Coke, tensor, 50 cents.
All right. Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward. So what's this deal with there being another type of conjunction?
Yeah, so, or do you want to take this one?
Well, so you can't have your cake and eat it too. And so frequently, and with the
I've been biting my tongue on Dr. Strangelove Coke jokes, so get yours in while you can.
okay, but you can't. So if we go back to the vending machine metaphor, the vending machine, given your dollar, can give you Diet Coke and Pepsi. Well, maybe not and Pepsi. Now I am going to get us in legal trouble. No, the vending machine can give you Diet Coke, and it can give you chips, and it can give you a candy bar. This is a very powerful vending machine, and that's the same kind of, like, I use the English word "and" for that. A dollar can give you, this, and a dollar can give you this, but you only get one of them. So whereas cake and flour making a cake, water and flour making a cake is the tensor, and I have to have both of these to make a cake. A dollar can give me a cake and, a dollar can give me a Diet Pepsi and a bag of chips. That I only get one.
Okay, so here it would be $1 and then lolly.
Yep.
And then, candy bar and bag of chips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're saying that is also an and in some sense.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different one.
It's almost
because
an
it's
or,
only
isn't
one.
it?
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah,
is
a lot of
really
people I
one
think
of
would
these.
protest and say, but why isn't that just
It's
or?
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so why isn't it just or? What is and about it?
Yeah, and really, I think the best thing to say is and about it is if we go back to sequent calculus, because if you try to write out the rules for this kind of and, it's going to look exactly like the rules you wrote out for your intuitionistic and.
Okay.
This is true in natural deduction, and this is true in sequent calculus. Both versions.
So sometimes I pretend I'm naive about this stuff. I
Perfect.
actually know a little bit about this stuff, and I'm going to try and use some of my knowledge, but my knowledge is very incomplete. So I'm going to use my incomplete knowledge to ask a question.
Yeah.
I always hear something about sorry, putting the dog on the. I always hear something about if you get to choose, right? This and means you get to choose whether you get the candy bar
Yeah.
or the.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this intuition is justified. It's not just something I've heard.
Yeah, that's right. So so what you're alluding to is that both this kind of and, which let's give it a name. It's usually called with. Perhaps that's more confusing, but anyway, just to keep things separate, we'll call it with. So A with B, or for example, soda with chips, is the linear proposition representing that you've got one or the other of these things, but not both at the same time. And you might say, as Cody's kind of alluding to here, that it's like, it's your choice, right? You get to press the button on the vending machine that says whether you're getting soda or chips. That's sort of, it's your choice. We might call that internal choice because it's sort of internal to the person engaging with this machine, as opposed to something like external choice, in which perhaps in the vending machine metaphor, a situation you might want to model is when you press a button and then something non-deterministically goes wrong. The things that the chip clip starts turning, but then it gets stuck. And so in that case, it's like you might get the bag of chips or you might get nothing, and it's not really your choice. It's like it's still a disjunction. It's still kind of like a this or that, but you don't get to choose.
I see. And that would be one of the disjunctions.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
And so the interesting thing, and here, we're kind of flitting back and forth between the metaphor description and the logic description. And I think that with and or are the linear logic connectives that you're going to get if you try to write out what and or mean in linear logic. Tensor,
I see.
the rules are actually a little bit less obvious.
What is the rule for tensor?
So the rule for tensor,
whichever the easiest one is, sequent calculus, whatever.
Yeah. So the sequent calculus one is not actually that unusual. If you've got an A tensor B in your context, your left rule is you've got an A tensor B, then if that's your conclusion in the premise, you have an A and you have a B. You have both. So that's just directly representing tensor means I have both.
This is the tensor internalizes comma idea.
I see. So in your context, it's it's bottom up or it's top down. So bottom.
Rob was describing
you
it
have
bottom up.
tensor.
Yeah.
At the top you have both. So in some sense, if I know that I have both, then I can just glue them together and have an and it's still something I have.
Yep.
Okay. And what would the other and be?
And the other and is, and this is the way you usually write a sequent calculus, if you have an A with B below the line, so if that's your conclusion, in your context you have an A with B, then above the line you have an A.
I see.
Or a B, right? So
there's two rules.
There's frequently two rules, and this matches the
Well,
natural deduction for and, where you've actually got one introduction rule. You have A and B if you have an A and you have a B, and you have two elimination rules in natural deduction. If I have an A and B, I have an A, and if I have an A and B, I have a B.
So on the program side of proofs and programs, this is projection. You can project an A out, you can project a B out. Yeah.
Okay, keep that in mind. We're nearing the end of the second episode.
Okay.
I'm gonna want to talk about that programs as proof.
Cool.
Okay, but I just want you one more time to explain to me what that rule is, because I'm not sure I got it. What's the rule?
The with left rule?
Yeah, the with left rule. Can you tell me again?
The with left rule is that...
What's the conclusion?
The conclusion is you've got your context, and in your context you've got A with B.
Okay.
And then you have, implies C.
Okay.
And then above the rule, above the line, you
yes.
have one premise, which is you've got your context and you've got
It's one
A.
of.
A,
Yeah.
and then
So you're saying if I can conclude C using just A, then certainly if I have A with B,
yeah,
then I can conclude C. And that does feel kind of like an and.
that does feel kind of like an and, right? And I think that that's absolutely the right, and this form is again more usual because it's the way that we match in the sequent calculus, having 2 elimination rules, 2 projections, for the one
Right.
integration.
Okay, now I kind of feel like I'm getting closer to the, that you get to choose metaphor.
Yeah.
Which is say, hey, you potentially have the one you want. In practice, however, you're only allowed to spend one of them.
Yeah.
Mhm. The other, it might be, we've only talked about half of the definition. The right rule is also instructive here, right? Which is that for width, you say, well, gamma proves A and gamma proves B, then gamma proves A with B.
Oh, and it's the same gamma.
So it's the same gamma. So it looks from a persistent logic perspective. This just looks like the definition of and introduction.
Yeah. But here,
But
you know
here-
that if you ever want to actually pay for that,
You're going to use all
you're
of
going
it.
to use all of it, and you know that will only get you one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
That's really interesting, and I kind of wish you guys had been around when I was learning this stuff, ages ago, instead of, some
Trying to
French
read Girard
teacher,
papers.
just throwing it on the ground and letting me scrabble up bits.
Yeah.
All right,
Now
let's
I'm
give
gonna
it just.
mutter par under my breath, but we're just gonna leave that out there.
Well, we're not done. Let's just take a beat and give me some very short white noise so I know where to cut, and then we can keep going if you like.
Sounds good. I don't think you have to do
All right.
it, Rob. I think.
No, that's good. I'll cut into it. And join us for part 3 coming up next.